Video is a demonstration for setting up our G600 internal gauge frame for a 3/4 16 UN 3B thread. First item you'll need will be a model G600 gauge frame. We're using an MI-5 indicator, 5/10 graduation, a set of pitch diameter fingers for 16 pitch, the mounting screws for the pitch diameter fingers, the part we're going to measure, and the appropriate Allen wrenches for assembly. First thing we'll do is we'll take the dial indicator and remove the cover on the fine adjustment knob. We'll verify that the red dot on the fine adjustment knob is facing dead center to the face of the dial indicator. The second thing we're going to do is disengage the half nut, the silver button on the lower finger holder, and loosen the locking thumb screw. And we'll apply pressure from the back side of the gauge frame on the half nut to disengage it from the threaded rod. We should be able to move the lower finger holder up and down the guide rods freely now. We'll start assembling the gauge frame. We'll take the dial indicator, insert it in its appropriate hole at the top of the gauge frame. We'll set the dial so that it reads about 9 thousandths on the right-hand side of the dial indicator. We'll make sure we'll just snug it tight enough so that it doesn't move, no tighter. Now we'll install the fingers. The pitch diameter fingers are manufactured so that one finger has one ball and another or opposing finger has two balls. We take the single ball finger and attach it to the upper finger holder with the appropriate screw. We just snug it. Now we'll take the two ball finger and install it on the lower finger holder. Again, with the appropriate screw. You don't need to over tighten anything. This is a gauge. Okay, now the dimension to set over the balls. With our gauge, you can set it at the low nominal or high PD. It does not matter. The pitch diameter tolerance for a 3/4 16 UN 3B thread is 709 thousandths and 4/10 to 714 thousandths and 3/10. In this case, we're going to set it to the high pitch diameter, which is 714 thousandths and 3/10. On the lower finger, there is a BD dimension etched. This is the diameter, the certified diameter of the balls located or fixtured in the pitch diameter fingers. Our setting size over the balls will be the pitch diameter plus 1/2 the ball diameter, which is 0.01804. That dimension plus the high PD comes out to 0.73234, or we're going to use 0.732 and 4/10. To set this gauge, I've selected to use gauge blocks. Now you can set it with vernier calipers, micrometers, stacking gauge blocks, in this case is what we're doing, or plain cylindrical ring gauges. If it's a repeat type thread, I would suggest plain cylindrical ring gauges. But most of our customers, about 90%, prefer to select it with either set it with gauge blocks or micrometers. Now, on the gauge, I'm going to physically slide the lower finger up to the upper, and I'm going to make sure that I can insert it between the anvils on the gauge blocks. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply pressure on the half nut while rotating the knob on the bottom of the gauge frame back and forth. This will engage the half nut so that now I can adjust the lower finger holder with the knob on the bottom of the gauge frame. I'm going to place the fingers between my master extensions, and I'm going to start rotating the knob and expanding the fingers until the dial on my indicator reads close to 0. I don't have to make it read exactly 0. Now what I'll do is I'll move the gauge until I read the minimum distance. In this case, I'm coming, or the indicator is reading 1/1000th to the left of 0. That's close enough. I don't need to set it to 0 at this time. Now I'm going to lock the thumb screw. Now I'm going to take a reading again. Okay, now it's reading about 1/1000th and 3/10 to the left of 0. So that means I have to move the needle to the right 1/1000 and 3/10. Now what I'm going to do is at the top of the dial indicator, I have the fine adjustment knob. Remember how we left it reading on the scale when we placed it into the gauge frame? I'm going to take this knob and move it about 1/1000 and 3/10 clockwise. Place it back in my master. Find the minimum distance between the two flat anvils on my gauge block stack. It reads 0 now. I simply take the cover, place it on the dial indicator because I don't want to bump it, and alter my setting size. Now all I have to do is I take my part, retract my fingers with the plunger, insert it into the threaded part, rest the two balls into the thread, release it, and I will arc it. This particular thread is 7/10 over the high PD. Now there are markers on the dial indicator that you can set for your pitch diameter range. And that's it. Thank you.